Hey guys, back at it again with another video. In this video, I'm going to go over SoFi here. This stock has been under a lot of scrutiny, one of which through muddy waters. If you have been seeing what's going on through X, they have been going on CNBC and so forth, attacking the companies in terms of its financial engineering. And we're going to do a deep dive into that, whether I not think a lot of their arguments are valid or not, and whether investors should be worried about this short report here. This, of course, is a serious accusation. When a short seller says something like this, they're not essentially nitpicking. They're implying the numbers might not reflect reality, right? So they're essentially saying fraud here. But here's the flip side. Short reports are designed to sound convincing. A lot of investors right now, or retail traders, don't seem to be particularly too convinced here. But as an investor, you need to be aware of these short reports and see if there's any validity to it. So in today's video, I'm going to do a deep dive into that so that you guys can make that decision for yourselves as investors here. So I'm gonna go over whether this company is a broken business or is this a complex one that's just easy to attack here, right? So right over here, I'm gonna go over the big accusation of financial engineering here. This is their core argument. They're basically saying that SoFi's growth isn't as real as it looks. And a lot of the results come from structuring deals as well as accounting choices. And the business might be more smoke and mirrors and ultimately just substances here. But here's the ultimate bullish reality that I was able to acquire here. Every single modern bank does this. JP Morgan, Goldman, every large financial institution, they originate loans, that sell loans, they securitize loans, they actively manage balance sheets. SoFi is not doing anything unusual. It's just newer and therefore easier to question. And most importantly, revenue growth is real. You're seeing this company grow revenue growth in the double digits. Your member growth is real. Product expansion is real. You can't fake millions of new users. You can't fake deposits growing for the service here. And you don't fake cross-selling across products, right? So calling it financial engineering is more framing than evidence here. Next is the accounting argument. Muddy Water claims SoFi is overstating their profitability, especially through adjusted EBITDA here. This sounds convincing until you zoom out. Adjusted EBITDA is always adjusted. Amazon, Tesla, every high growth company does this. The real question now is SoFi's out of the norm? And there's no evidence of that. There's no SEC investigation. There's no restatement. There's no auditor issues. There's the JP Morgan situation now. This is being framed as something suspicious, but in reality, it comes down to classification. Is it a loan or is it a loan sale? That's not fraud territory. That's accounting interpretation. And here's the key bullish point here. If this were actually aggressive or misleading to the point of concern, regulators and auditors would already be involved at this point here. As of right now, they're not. So this becomes less about they're wrong and more about short sellers disagree with ultimately how they are presenting their numbers. And that's a big difference here. Next is the hidden debt concern. This is another classic short seller move. Take something complex and present it as hidden, right? Yes, SoFi has loan transfers, securitizations, retained exposure. But again, that is banking. If you applied this same logic to major banks, the JP Morgans of this world, you could make that exact same argument. And here's the bullish takeaway here. Nothing here appears new, undisclosed, or outside normal financial reporting. It's just hard to understand. And in markets, complexity often gets mistaken for risk here. Next is the dilution argument. Yes, shareholders have been diluted. And that's true. There's no getting away around it, right? But here's what matters here. What did that dilution buy? It got them massive user growth. It got them expansion to multiple financial products. It got them a fully built ecosystem, lending, banking, investing, a tech platform, right? SoFi didn't dilute just to survive. They diluted to scale. And if that scale continues compounding, early dilution essentially becomes irrelevant. And that's how most winning growth companies actually work. Muddy Waters is also saying they won't answer questions. This sounds worse than it actually is. Companies rarely engage directly with short sellers because it creates legal risk and it amplifies the report. It turns it into a public fight. That's not good. That's not professional. And instead, what SoFi is doing and what other strong companies actually do, they deny it and they clearly just moved on. Most importantly, they signaled potential legal action. That's not something companies do lightly. It's just they believe the claims cross from opinion into misrepresentation here. So ultimately, what is the market saying? And this might be the most important part. If this report actually exposed something serious, you would have seen a sustained sell-off, panic, and multiple downgrades here. Instead, yes, you did get the stock having a major dip from where it was, right? But ultimately, it's stabilizing roughly around these areas, and a lot of the price action seems to be more so from total macroeconomics. I don't see anything more drastic than the overall market, right? If the overall market's down about 2-3%, SoFi, as well as other fintech companies like Hood, are trading within the same amount of drawdowns here. And ultimately, that tells me something, right? The market didn't see a smoking gun, and the markets are very good at sniffing those out extremely quickly here. And ultimately, we had some insight from other analysts here. We had firms like Mizuho that maintained their ratings here. And ultimately, that's a big deal because analysts have access to management. They have understanding of their accounting, and they model the business in detail. If they thought that this changed the story, they would have reacted fast. The reaction was basically nothing here fundamentally breaks that thesis, and that's a strong counter signal to that short report here. Here's the legal angle, SoFi essentially going on offense. SoFi didn't just brush this off, they pushed back hard and they hinted at a potential legal action. That matters for two reasons. It shows confidence in the business, they're not hedging, and number two, it forces accountability on the short seller. Now, realistically, lawsuits like this are rare and difficult, but the signal is what matters. We think this is not just wrong, but misleading enough to essentially challenge and take this to court here. That's a different posture than a company just trying to hide something. Zooming out, this isn't a fraud debate. This is a complexity versus trust debate. Bears are saying complexity is risk. Bulls are saying complexity is a scalable financial platform. And historically, a lot of the biggest winners looked complicated early. So what's the bullish case here? If you strip away the noise, the bull case is quite simple. They have real user growth, they have real revenue growth, they have expanding product ecosystem, they're increasing their cross-selling, they also have operating leverage over time. And most importantly, nothing in the short report definitively breaks any of that. If you're looking at SoFi, it really comes down to this. Number one, do you believe in the long-term platform? Number two, do you think management is credible? Do you believe in Anthony Noto? Number three, are you comfortable with a complex financial model? If yes, this looks like noise here. And if no, this report just confirmed your concerns. So my final thoughts, the short reports feel powerful because they're detailed as well as aggressive here. But detail doesn't equal truth. Right now, this looks less like an exposure and more like an interpretation battle. And in those situations, the market usually decides over time and not in just one singular report. SoFi isn't proven right yet, but it's definitely not proven broken either here. So I'm going to go over some of the technicals as the stock is having a dive with the overall markets here and where I expect support to be found for this stock here. So I have SoFi here pulled up on the weekly time frame here. There's no support that's been found for this company just yet, but we are on the lower Bollinger Band, and on the weekly time frame, we are oversold here. Looking at the RSI on the weekly time frame, it puts us at an RSI of 28.88 currently, with a major level of support sitting roughly around this 13.5 area here. As you can see here, it was a definitive low back in August 2021, as well as December 2021, as well as the other areas of support roughly around this area here. So this 13.5 is a key psychological level I expect this stock to potentially find support at. We are already just oversold on all time frames here. The weekly, like I said, being roughly around 28.88, the daily approaching into the 21s, right? So I do expect some level of dead cat bounce where the stock is currently at here. On the weekly time frame here, 200 simple moving average is sitting roughly around 11.59. I don't expect the stock to have a full retracement to the 200 simple moving average, but it is a one level to watch for the stock here as it's continuous descent. If the current macro doesn't improve and the overall market continues its slide, it's not out of the question, right? There's no support that's been found for the stock just yet, and the war situation has not been improving so far. So in terms of the daily time frame, in terms of what I suspect, I do think we get some level of dead cat bounce here. That's likely going to inflect the MACD on the daily towards more bullish scenario here. Just because of where we're sitting at in terms of valuations, it's forward PE sitting in towards the 20s. When the stock is growing over 20%, the stock is very likely a place where a lot of institutions are likely going to pick up for this stock here. So that is it for my video for SoFi here. Let me know if you agree with the Muddy Waters report and whether or not I broke down a lot of the arguments well. Hopefully this was insightful for you guys. And as always, happy trading, guys. If you guys have any other stocks you guys want me to go over, shoot them down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next week.